At my retirement party, my wife served me divorce papers, while my own daughter cheered. I just smiled, signed everything, and whispered to her, "You have no idea what you just did to yourself." Her face went pale as she realized. Hey, Reddit. My wife of 19 years served me divorce papers at my retirement party in front of everyone. She really thought she was getting half of everything and that she was being smart. Too bad it backfired in ways she never saw coming. You're gonna need some popcorn. Name's Rick, 49 male. I met Grace when I was 27. She was working at a dental office, had that whole sweet and bubbly thing going on. We got married after dating for 2 years, bought a house with the inheritance money my old man left me, and had our daughter Tiffany a year later. For the first years, things were decent. I worked at Kellerman Printing, moving up from press operator to production supervisor. Grace stayed home with Tiffany until she started school, then picked up part-time hours at some craft supply store downtown. 20 hours a week, maybe. Enough to keep her busy and give her spending money. Somewhere around 3 years ago, things shifted. She started going on about how she'd given up her dreams for the family. What dreams, I never knew. Far as I could tell, her big ambition had been to marry someone with a stable job and live in a nice house. Mission accomplished. Fast forward to last year, she was hanging out more with her friend Paige, this divorced woman who acted like every married woman was a prisoner. Tiffany turned into a mini version of her mother, entitled Dramatic, always wanting something. I paid for the private high school she demanded, the car she just had to have, the credit card for emergencies that somehow racked up charges at the mall every week. So here we were. My retirement party was scheduled for a Thursday night. 28 years at Kellerman Printing. 28 years of 5 a.m. starts, mandatory overtime during holiday catalogs, and dealing with designers who thought deadlines were suggestions. When they threw me a retirement party in the break room, I figured I'd earned at least that much. The place was packed. Guys from every shift showed up. My brother Neil was there with his wife Maria, couple of neighbors, my buddy Nolan from the bindery line, who I'd worked with for 15 years. They'd gotten a sheet cake with my name in blue frosting and hung one of those generic retirement banners across the back wall. I was standing near the snack table when Nolan started telling me about his boat. Just bought it off some guy on Craigslist. Got a steal, apparently. Only needed minor repairs. We were debating whether a Mercury outboard from the 90s was worth rebuilding when I saw her walk in. Grace, wearing her black dress, the expensive one, carrying a manila folder like she was about to hand out meeting notes. She walked straight to me, didn't even look at anyone else. Just stopped 3 feet away and held up that folder. Divorce papers. Said it loud enough for half the room to hear. The conversations around us died faster than my interest in this marriage had. I opened the folder. Petition for dissolution. Her signature already on page 4, dated 3 days ago. I flipped through. Property division, spousal support, all spelled out like she'd been planning this for months, which she probably had. Got a pen? She pulled one from her purse. I found every signature line and signed. Didn't read the fine print. Didn't argue. Just signed my name while 30 people watched in dead silence. When I finished, I closed the folder and handed it back. Then I leaned in close. You have no idea what you just did to yourself. Said it quiet. Said it calm. Then turned back to Nolan. You were saying something about the carburetor? That's when I heard it. Clapping. My daughter Tiffany was standing near the door, 18 years old, wearing her smug little smirk, actually clapping. Slow at first, then faster. Like her mother had just won an award. Grace picked up the folder and walked out. Tiffany followed, didn't even glance my way. Room stayed frozen for maybe 10 seconds. Then Nolan cleared his throat. Man, that was cold. Conversations picked back up, awkward at first. My supervisor came over, asked if I needed a minute. Told him I was good. Guy from accounting whispered something about how his ex-wife pulled similar garbage. Another guy just shook his head and walked away. Nobody knew what to say. Stayed for another hour. Ate cake. Shook hands. Accepted my plaque with the engraved nameplate. When I left around 8:30, I drove home to the house I'd bought with my inheritance. The house that was in my name only because of how we'd set up the deed for tax purposes back in 2001. Grace's car was gone. Most of her clothes, too. She'd taken her grandmother's china, the expensive coffee maker, half the bathroom supplies. Left the furniture, though. Too heavy to move without help. I sat on the couch and looked around. The bookshelf I'd built. The TV I'd bought. The rug we'd gotten at some outlet mall in Pennsylvania. Then my phone buzzed. Text from Neil. Maria's freaking out. Said that was brutal. You good? Typed back. I'm great. Talk tomorrow. Set the phone down. Sat there in the quiet. Just thinking about that folder and all those pages she'd filled out with her lawyer. She thought she'd planned everything. She hadn't. Time to make some calls. First week after the party, silence. No calls from Grace, no texts, nothing. Figured she was busy celebrating her liberation with Paige, probably already planning her new independent life. Good for her. I kept my routine. Coffee at 6, breakfast by 7. Body doesn't care that you're retired. Still wakes up at the same time it has for 28 years. Tuesday morning, I drove to the bank. Had an appointment with a banker named Michelle. Professional, efficient, probably handled 10 divorces a week. Need to make some account changes. She pulled up my information. Joint checking with Grace Carver, savings in my name only. Want to open a new checking account, solo, and I need to move funds from the joint before this gets messier. She didn't even blink. How much? Half. Exactly half. She typed. Joint account showed $9,200. My half was $4,600. 20 minutes later, I walked out with a new account, temporary card, and a receipt. Simple. That afternoon, I met with a lawyer. Martin Whitcomb had an office above a bagel shop on Oak Street. Neil had used him for estate stuff and said he was solid. No nonsense, didn't overcharge, actually returned calls. Martin was mid-50s. Looked like he'd seen every divorce trick twice. I handed him the papers Grace had served me. Your wife did this at your retirement party? She's got flair, I'll give her that. He flipped through the pages. You read these before signing? Skimmed them. Let me guess. You didn't actually read them. Was there a point? She wanted out. I wasn't going to beg. He smiled. Fair enough. Let's see what we're working with. 10 minutes in, he started chuckling. Told me she was claiming spousal support. Looked like she was expecting around $2,500 a month based on these numbers. Also claiming the house was marital property. Wanted it sold and split 50-50. She thought there was about $110,000 in equity. Wanted her 55. Martin looked up at me. Anything you want to tell me about that? House is paid off. Finished it 4 months ago. Took money from my retirement fund, ate the penalty, cleared the whole thing. Deeds in my name only. Set it up that way in 2001 because I inherited the down payment from my dad. He set the papers down. She know about this? Knew we were close. Doubt she knew I'd already finished. Martin actually laughed. Oh man, she's gonna lose her mind. What else you got? Told him about rolling over my pension into an IRA the day after she served me. Savings account in my name she never tracked. Grown to about $52,000. The truck was paid off, titled to me. Tiffany's car was in my name too, but I'd been letting her use it. We spent another hour documenting everything. When we finished, Martin walked me out. I'll file our response by Friday. She's going to flip when she reads it. That night, my phone rang around 8. Tiffany. Dad, you need to help Mom find an apartment. I need to what? She's staying with Paige and it's awkward. She needs her own place. Then she should get her own place? She doesn't have enough money. She has half the checking account. $4,600. That's a security deposit and first month anywhere reasonable. Tiffany kept pushing. Said there was nothing reasonable in good areas. Told her then her mother should look at other areas. She called me petty. Tiffany, your mother served me divorce papers at my retirement party. You clapped. Now you're calling to tell me I'm petty for not funding her new life? That's rich. Okay, but you're supposed to be the mature one. I am being mature. I signed the papers without argument. Whatever. She needs help and you're just sitting there eating steak like nothing happened. I paused. How'd you know I was eating steak? I can hear you chewing. Good ears. Maybe you should use them to listen when people tell you things. She hung up on me. I finished my steak. Tasted great. Around 9, Neil called. Maria's been texting with Grace. Apparently you're the bad guy now. Shocking. She's saying you hid money, that you tricked her, that the house should be hers too. She was never on the title. It's been in my name for 19 years. She just never paid attention. He laughed. Maria thinks you should give her half anyway, because it's the right thing to do. Maria can think whatever she wants. Just giving you a heads up. She's on the warpath, probably going to call you herself. She did call. 10 minutes later. We need to talk about Grace. No, we don't. She's devastated. She's crying every day. She thought you two would work this out, and you just signed those papers like they meant nothing. They were divorce papers, Maria. That's what you do with them. The conversation went in circles. Her saying I could have fought for my marriage. Me pointing out Grace served me at my retirement party in front of 30 people. What was I supposed to fight for? Maria claiming Grace did it that way because she knew I'd just brush it off if she did it privately. That she needed to make a statement. She made one. Now she gets to deal with it. Maria went on about how Neil said I paid off the mortgage without telling Grace. Started in on how this was why men like me end up alone. Men like me end up in paid-off houses with money in the bank. I'll take it. She hung up. 2 weeks later, something interesting happened. Tiffany had left her laptop here when she moved out with her mother. Left it on the kitchen counter in her rush to follow Grace out the door after the party. I wasn't snooping. Was just going to pack it up for her to pick up later. But it was open, and there was a text conversation on the screen between Grace and someone named Alan. Alan with the heart emoji next to his name. I scrolled up. Went back about 3 months. Turns out Grace wasn't just planning a divorce. She was planning a whole new life. With Alan, who was 34 years old according to his profile picture. Worked at some gym downtown. Lots of selfies showing off his arms and abs. The texts were exactly what you'd expect. Her complaining about me. Him calling me old and boring. Her going on about how much money she'd get from the divorce. Him talking about how they could travel. Maybe get a place together. Start fresh. One text stood out. Grace. Once the house sells and I get my half plus support, we're looking at close to $80,000 to start with, plus the monthly payments. We can go anywhere. Alan. Can't wait, babe. You deserve this. We deserve this. Another one from 2 months ago. Grace. He has no idea I've been talking to Nadine. He thinks everything is fine. So clueless. Alan. When you moving out? Grace. Soon. Waiting for the right moment. Going to make it public so he can't argue. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Sent them to Martin. His reply came back in 3 minutes. Well, this changes things. Forwarding to my paralegal. This helps our case big time. She was planning this with her boyfriend while still married. Judge won't like that. Yeah, I figured it might help. I packed up Tiffany's laptop and left it by the front door. She could pick it up whenever, but I wasn't in any rush to tell her I knew about Alan. Martin had his ammunition. Now we'd see how Grace's lawyer handled reality. Week 3 started with a call from Grace's lawyer. Woman named Nadine. Mr. Carver, I'm calling regarding the petition for dissolution filed by my client. Got the papers? Yes. Well, we haven't received your response yet. The deadline is coming up. My lawyer's handling it. And who might that be? Martin Whitcomb. Pause on her end. I see. Well, please inform Mr. Whitcomb that we'd like to speed this up. My client is anxious to finalize the settlement and move forward. I bet she is. Probably got plans already. I'll let him know you called. Hung up and texted Martin. He texted back 5 minutes later, saying to let her wait, that he was filing our response Friday and including the boyfriend stuff. That afternoon, I ran into Paige at the grocery store. She was in the produce section, loading up her cart like she was prepping for the end of the world. Oh, Rick. Paige. She looked at me with this expression that was pure smugness. I heard about the party. That took a lot of courage for Grace to do. Courage. That's one word for it. She picked up an avocado, squeezed it, mentioned that Grace told her about the house situation, that I was saying it was all mine. I'm not saying anything. The deed's been in my name for 19 years. Public record. Well, she deserves half. She lived there. She made it a home. She picked out paint colors and bought throw pillows. I paid the mortgage. Bit of a difference. That's a very cold way to look at marriage. Marriage is over, Paige. Grace made that pretty clear. Now it's just splitting stuff, and the stuff is pretty clearly documented. She set down the avocado. You know, this is exactly why she left you. You're so focused on what's yours that you can't see the bigger picture. The bigger picture where she gets my house and my money while she shacks up with her boyfriend? That bigger picture? Paige's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Alan, 34, works at a gym. Lots of text messages about their future together once the divorce money comes through. Ring any bells? She grabbed her cart. I need to go. Tell Grace I said hi, and tell Alan I said he better get a second job. That 80,000 they were planning on is looking more like zero. I finished my shopping in peace. Friday came, and Martin filed our response to the divorce petition. He emailed me a copy that afternoon. 14 pages of detailed information about assets, income, and property ownership. Every single thing Grace had gotten wrong. The best part was asking her to pay her share of household expenses for the 6 months before she filed, since she'd been planning this whole time while still living in my house, eating my food, using my utilities. Martin had also included a very polite paragraph explaining that based on the actual asset division, the evidence of her relationship with Alan during the marriage, and the fact that Grace was perfectly capable of working full-time, spousal support would not be appropriate. Attached as exhibits were printed screenshots of the text messages between Grace and Alan, every single one where they discussed the divorce money and their future plans. I read it twice and called him. We should talk about Tiffany's car. Explain the situation. How it was titled in my name, I'd been letting her use it, but legally it was my property. Martin suggested that if she was taking her mother's side in all this, maybe it was time to remind her that most of the things she thought were hers were actually mine. You know what, Martin? Let's add that to the list. The car stays with me. She wants to keep it. She can start making payments. He laughed. I'll make a note. That weekend, Nolan called and asked if I wanted to help him work on the boat. Spent Saturday afternoon sanding down the deck while he worked on the engine. Your ex still freaking out? He asked around lunch. Probably. Haven't heard from her directly. He cracked open a drink. Told me about his own divorce, how it was brutal. She wanted everything. House, truck, his fishing gear. Even tried to get his tools. What did you do? Hired a good lawyer. Kept what was mine. Learned real quick that being nice during a divorce just means you lose faster. He took a long drink. You doing okay, though? For real? I thought about it. About the quiet house, the paid-off mortgage, the money in savings, the ribeyes I could eat whenever I wanted. Yeah, I'm doing fine. And I meant it. Nolan set down his iced tea. You know what the best part about divorce is? You realize how much energy you were spending on someone who didn't appreciate it. Now you get that energy back. Use it however you want. Told him that was pretty much exactly what happened. He said his ex used to complain about everything. The house wasn't big enough. The truck wasn't new enough. His job didn't pay enough. After she left, he realized none of that stuff mattered. He was happy with what he had. She was the problem. 4 weeks in, Tiffany showed up at the house. I was in the garage organizing my tools when I heard the doorbell. Opened it to find her standing there with her hand out. I need the spare key to the Mazda. Hello to you too. Dad, I'm serious. The spare key. I lost mine. The Mazda that's titled in my name? It's my car. You gave it to me for graduation. I let you use a car that I own. Big difference. Oh my God. Are you really going to do this? She pushed past me into the house. Said this was ridiculous. That her mother said I'd probably pull something like this. I need it for work and school. You can walk. Walk? It's summer. It's hot. Welcome to the real world. It's full of hot days. She stared at me like I'd just spoken a different language. You're being a jerk. I'm being practical. That car is in my name. You want to keep using it? We can work something out. You make the insurance payments. We'll call it even. I can't afford insurance payments. Then I guess you're walking. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Mom. Good luck with that. She stormed out. 30 seconds later, I heard her trying to start the Mazda in the driveway. I'd already removed the battery that morning. Just a precaution. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Grace, you disconnected Tiffany's car. I removed the battery from my car that I've been letting Tiffany borrow. She needs that car. You're punishing her for supporting me. I'm teaching her that the person who pays for things gets to make decisions about those things. She's going to hate you. She already clapped when you served me divorce papers. How much worse can it get? Silence on the other end. Then she said something about how I'd changed. No, Grace. I just stopped pretending the last 5 years of this marriage weren't miserable. You wanted out. You're out. But you don't get to take my stuff, my money, and my car. And you definitely don't get to teach our daughter that she can treat me like trash and still get everything she wants. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Tiffany called back. Crying this time. Dad, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I clapped. I'm sorry I was rude. I just need my car. It's not your car. Fine. I need the car you let me use, please. Come by tomorrow. We'll talk about it. 2 o'clock. She hung up without saying goodbye. I reinstalled the battery just to make sure the car actually worked, then removed it again. The next day at 2, Tiffany showed up, this time without the attitude. She sat on the couch in the living room and actually looked like she'd been crying. Good. Can I please use the car? Depends. On what? On whether you understand why you're in this position. She looked down. Because I clapped at the party. Because you took your mother's side without knowing anything. Because you've been entitled and rude. Because you seem to think the world owes you things just for existing. She wiped her eyes. Said her mother told her I was hiding money, that I was trying to screw Grace over. I laid out the truth. How Grace was planning this divorce for months. How she had a boyfriend named Alan. How they were planning to use my money to start their new life together. How I wasn't screwing anyone over, just not rolling over and giving away everything I'd worked for. Tiffany looked up. She has a boyfriend? Yeah, 34. Gym trainer. Lots of muscles, not a lot of money. They've been texting for months about all the places they'll go once she gets the divorce settlement. She didn't tell me that. She didn't tell you a lot of things. But you picked a side anyway. Silence. I stood up. Here's the deal. You want the car? You pay the insurance. $300 a month. You want to keep that credit card I gave you? You pay your own charges. You want my help with college? You start acting like an adult who understands that respect goes both ways. She nodded slowly. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. But until you decide, the car stays here and the credit card gets canceled. That's not fair. Life's not fair. She left without the car keys. Neil called that night. He sighed. Look, I get it. You're mad. But Tiffany's just a kid. She's 18. Old enough to clap at my humiliation. Old enough to face consequences. 2 days later, Tiffany texted. Said she'd pay the insurance and her credit card. Asked if she could please have the car back. Texted back to come by Saturday at 10, and we'd set it up. She showed up at 10 exactly. No attitude this time. Just tired. I had the insurance paperwork ready. She signed up for the monthly payments, linked her checking account. Then I handed her the keys. She started toward the door, then stopped. Dad? Yeah? I'm sorry. For clapping. For everything. I appreciate that. Are we okay? Not yet. But we're getting there. She nodded and left. 8 weeks in. The cracks were turning into holes. I was replacing the weather stripping on my front door when a car pulled up. Some small sedan I didn't recognize. Grace got out of the passenger side. Paige was driving. I kept working on the weather stripping. Grace walked up the path and stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. We need to talk about your response. About what Martin filed. What about it? You attached my private messages. I attached evidence relevant to the divorce. Your plans to use marital assets for your new life. All pretty relevant. Paige had gotten out of the car. She stood by the driver's door looking uncomfortable. Grace came up 2 steps. I lived in this house for 19 years. You did. I deserve half of it. You deserve exactly what the law says you deserve, which is nothing because your name isn't on the deed, and you didn't contribute to the mortgage. I contributed to the marriage. You worked 20 hours a week at a store and spent your paycheck on yourself? I worked 60-hour weeks for 28 years and paid every bill in this house. Her face was red now. Said Nadine could still fight this. That a judge would see I was being unreasonable. Nadine can say whatever she wants. The facts are in the filing. You're welcome to challenge them if you think they're wrong. You know what really gets me? You're acting like I'm some gold digger when I gave you the best years of my life. You're 46. You've got plenty of years left. Go live them with Alan. Oh wait, where is Alan these days? She went pale. Haven't heard from him in a while, have you? Let me guess. Once he found out there was no $80,000 payout coming, he ran. That's not... She stopped. Not what? Not true? Come on, Grace. You texted him about the divorce response. About how there was no money. About how he stopped returning your calls. Tiffany told me. She said she wouldn't tell you that. She's learning that loyalty goes both ways. And right now, her loyalty to you is looking pretty shaky. Paige called out from the driveway that maybe they should go. Grace ignored her. Said the apartment she found wanted $5,000 to move in. First, last, security deposit. She didn't have $5,000. You have $4,600 from the joint account. I need that for living expenses. Then find a cheaper apartment. Not my problem. The argument continued. Her saying she gave me 19 years. Me reminding her I gave her 19 years right back. Paid every bill. Put food on the table. Made sure Tiffany had what she needed. But it wasn't enough. She wanted more. She wanted Alan and his muscles and whatever fantasy life they cooked up. Well, congratulations, Grace. You got exactly what you asked for. She was crying now. This isn't how it was supposed to go. How was it supposed to go? You collect my money, move in with your boyfriend, live happily ever after? Life's not a movie. It's choices and consequences. Nadine says you're breaking the law by hiding assets. Martin says you're delusional. I'll take his word over hers. Paige walked up the path. Grace, come on. He's not going to help. Grace wiped her eyes. What am I supposed to do? Figure it out. You've become cruel. No, Grace, I'm just done. There's a difference. Paige took Grace's arm and led her back to the car. At the passenger door, Grace turned around one last time. You're going to regret this. I doubt it. They drove off. That evening, Martin called. Said Nadine filed an emergency motion for temporary support. Hearing next week, Tuesday at 2, asked if I was available. I'll be there. Bring your documentation. She's going to argue that Grace has no way to support herself, and I'll show she's perfectly capable of working full-time. Plus the boyfriend thing. Exactly. This should be quick. 1 more week until the hearing. 10 weeks since the party. Grace was finally understanding what I meant when I whispered those words. Time to make it official. The hearing lasted 35 minutes. We sat in a small courtroom that smelled like old books and floor cleaner. Nadine spent 10 minutes arguing that Grace needed temporary support. No income, no place to live, sacrificed her career for the marriage. The usual script. Martin didn't waste time. Pulled out Grace's work history showing she chose part-time hours. Showed the 4,600 she'd already taken from the joint account. Then came the text messages with Alan. Every single one where they discussed splitting my money and starting their new life. The judge was a woman in her 60s. Silver hair, reading glasses. The kind who'd seen every divorce trick 3 times. She flipped through the papers while Nadine talked. Didn't look impressed. When Nadine finished, the judge asked Grace directly if she'd been planning this divorce while living in my house and texting her boyfriend about the money. Grace tried to explain. The judge cut her off, asked if she was capable of working full-time. Grace said yes, but started making excuses about her age and the job market. Wrong move. The judge closed the folder, said the text messages showed Grace had been planning to commit fraud on the court by claiming she had no means of support while having a boyfriend and being perfectly capable of full-time work. Motion for temporary support denied. Asset division would proceed according to Martin's filing. Done in 35 minutes. Outside the courthouse, Grace stood on the steps with Nadine, both of them looking like they'd been hit by a truck. Nadine was on her phone, probably already calling her next client. Grace just stared at the parking lot like she was waiting for someone to tell her this was all a bad dream. I walked past without saying anything. Martin caught up with me at my truck. That went well. Better than expected. She'll probably try to settle now. Avoid more embarrassment. I'm open to reasonable offers. He paused. Said he'd heard something interesting. Apparently, Alan completely ghosted Grace. Blocked her number. Deleted his social media. Guy vanished. I laughed. Shocking that a 34-year-old gym trainer who wanted to live off divorce money turned out to be unreliable. Martin grinned and mentioned his paralegal heard Grace tried showing up at his gym. He quit the next day. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. The universe has a funny way of working things out. 2 weeks later, Nadine called Martin with a settlement offer. Grace would take the remainder of the joint checking, her car, her personal belongings, and $3,500 from my savings as a one-time payment. No house, no ongoing support, no further claims. Martin called and asked what I thought. She wants $3,500 from my savings? It's a lot less than the $80,000 she was planning on. Counter with $2,000, one time, final. She's not going to like that. She can take it to trial. The judge already shut her down once. Doubt she wants to do that again. He called back an hour later. She'd accepted. Said Nadine mentioned Grace was crying when she signed off on it. Said something about how I'd ruined her life. Martin also mentioned Grace had been applying for full-time positions. 3 interviews so far. No offers. Reality hits hard. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday. I didn't attend. Martin handled the paperwork. I transferred $2,000 to Grace's account that afternoon and got confirmation that all claims were settled. That night, I sat on the back porch with a decent steak. My phone buzzed. Text from Tiffany saying her mother was really struggling, that she got a job at Target, but the apartment she found was pretty bad. I texted back. She made her choices. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Can we have dinner sometime? Just us? I thought about it for a minute. Sure. Saturday night, I'll grill. Thanks, Dad. I set the phone down. The dust was settling. Time to see what life looked like on the other side. 2 months after the divorce finalized, things had settled into something normal. Tiffany came by for dinner every other Saturday. We didn't talk about Grace much. Mostly talked about her plans for community college, her job at a retail store, her slow realization that real life required actual effort. She was making her insurance payments on time, paying her credit card bill, learning. One Saturday she showed up early. I was in the garage working on my truck when she walked in. She sat on my workbench. Mom's dating again. That was fast. Different guy, older. Has money, apparently. She met him at Target. Good for her. She picked at a grease rag. Said Grace had asked her for money for her new apartment deposit. I looked up from the engine. And? I said no. She's my mom. But she made her choices. She tried to take everything from you. I'm not helping her do that again. I went back to the engine. Good. She's mad at me now. She'll get over it. Or she won't. Either way, you made the right call. She watched me work for a minute. Said she'd been thinking about what I said. About consequences and choices. That she was a brat for years. Thought I'd just keep paying for everything forever because that's what I always did. I let it happen. That's on me too. But you stopped. And it sucked. But I kind of needed it. I stood up and looked at her. We're getting there. You're making your payments. You're working. You're acting like an adult. That's what matters. Are we good now? Like really good? I'm your dad. That's not how it works. She helped me finish with the truck. We grilled burgers that night, ate on the back porch. She told me about her classes starting in the fall, about maybe studying business, about learning to budget now that she actually had to pay for things. 3 months after the divorce, Nolan finished his boat, took me out on the lake on a Sunday. We fished, didn't catch anything, didn't care. Just enjoyed being out on the water. You're doing good. Heard your ex is having a rough time. I heard that too. You feel bad about it? I thought about that. No. She made her choices. I'm just living with mine. He cracked open a soda. Good answer. 4 months after the divorce, I ran into Grace at the grocery store. She was in the frozen food section, loading up her cart with budget meals. She saw me before I could turn around. Rick. We stood there for a second. You look good. Like you're doing okay. I am. Tiffany tells me you two have dinner every other week. We do. That's good. She needs her dad. Yeah, she does. Grace looked down at her cart. Said she was doing okay too. The job at Target wasn't great, but it paid the bills. And Bradley, that was her boyfriend, he was helping her look at better apartments. Good for you. She looked back up at me. I was wrong. About a lot of things. About Alan, about the money, about how the divorce would go. I thought you'd just roll over. Let me have whatever I wanted. You always did before. Before you served me divorce papers at my retirement party. That was the line, Grace. She nodded. I know that now. I grabbed the frozen vegetables I'd come for. I need to go. Rick? Yeah? I'm sorry for how I did it. Not for the divorce, I think we both needed that. But for the party. For Tiffany clapping. For all of it. I appreciate that. Are we okay? We're done, Grace, but we're not enemies. That's probably the best we can do. She smiled sadly. Yeah, probably is. I walked away, didn't look back. I drove home to my house. I'd worked 28 years for this. For the peace of making my own decisions. For steaks whenever I wanted them. For Saturday mornings working on my truck. For dinners with my daughter, who was finally learning what I'd been trying to teach her all along. Worth every penny. Worth every hour. Worth every moment of standing my ground. Grace had served me those divorce papers, thinking she'd planned everything. Thinking she'd cash out and start over. Thinking I'd just hand everything over because I always had before. She was wrong about all of it. Alan disappeared the second things got hard. The house she thought was half hers turned out to belong only to me. The $80,000 she'd planned on became $2,000 and goodbye. The independent life she'd dreamed about became a one-bedroom apartment and a Target uniform. Justice is beautiful. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.